Hello, you beautiful nerds. So I decided I would do something a little different with this video. I was going to do a review of Hocus Pocus 2, but I decided I want to do a review of all of the movies I watched during Halloween. I mean, I celebrate Halloween all month, so yeah, this is just every movie I watched all month. Or at least most of the movies I watched all month. Some of them I already covered, and some of them I don't have anything interesting to say. But I thought it would be fun to just do a quick run through a bunch of cool horror flicks that I would like to watch during the season. I just did this because I thought it would be fun. Don't get used to this format. I'm not going to do this kind of video all the time or anything. I'm not trying to bite off a Carson Runquist. But anyway, let's go ahead and get this started because this is going to be very quick. So fasten your metaphorical seatbelts because we're going to be speeding through this list like shit through a goose. So grab a bong and grab a drink and let's talk about what I watched Over the Garden Wall. I love that Elijah Wood just does whatever sounds fun to him. He's the producer and star of this animated miniseries set in the deep and dangerous woods. Most shows that feature a character lost in the woods is some kind of allegory for being lost or feeling stuck mentally or emotionally. And without spoiling anything, this also has that too. This cartoon strikes the perfect blend of cute and creepy and finds comedy in the strangest of places. I'm not a huge fan of the folk horror genre, but I dug this fantastical, grim fairy tale-esque show. It's pretty short, and the episodes are only 10 minutes long, so it's the perfect unsettling show to watch in between slasher flicks. My ranking, I love it.
Thursday, October 31st.
Then I watched The Batman again. I mean, it's Halloween. I had to. I thought about watching The Dark Knight since it's more directly inspired by the Long Halloween comic, but The Batman is a straight up Halloween movie and I love that about it. It's dingy, spooky, and if you don't feel like watching 7 because you've seen it too many times, this could be a nice replacement. I've already said how much I love this movie. I still love this movie. This movie fucking rules. My ranking, I still love it. Then I rewatched Little Shop of Horrors. I haven't seen this movie since I was a kid, and what initially hooked me was that Pam and Gina were randomly in this movie, but then I was entranced by the music and the dance performances. It was also the only time I was legit terrified of Steve Martin. Rick Moranis is not a strong singer, but other than that, it still holds up very, very well. My ranking, I still love it. Then I watched Werewolf by Night. Whoever knows fear burns at the hands of the Man-Thing, and we got to see that shit in this show. This was surprisingly spectacular. I was all in on this weird old school Universal horror style. It's not like they leaned all the way in. It doesn't feel like I was watching The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or anything, but the tone was different than any other Marvel film. My only complaint is that I wish it had 4 more episodes following Jack and Ted. Who knew that the guy who wrote the new Batman score could direct something as scary as his music? He also does the music for this one, and it is, as you would expect, incredible. I mean, I know they want a black director for Blade, but if Giacchino isn't busy or anything right now, can we see if he wants to shoot it? Can we get the black delegation to weigh in on this?
Black delegation.
My ranking, I liked it. Then I rewatched People Under the Stairs. I saw this movie as a kid and it affected me deeply. One of my favorite horror flicks, and the first one I saw with mostly black people. Nightmare on Elm Street was the first horror movie I saw, but this was the first movie that I saw that scared the ever-living shit out of me, while also intriguing me to the point where I had to see the movie again. It wasn't until a few years ago that I bought it and watched it for the first time as an adult, and holy shit, I still get chills while watching this movie. For how good it is and how popular the director is, I'm surprised more people don't talk about this one because this is probably the best black horror film ever. Also, Jordan Peele loves this movie and it's all about black people, so if you don't like this movie, you're a Philistine and a racist.
I was just kidding. Come on. Come on.
My ranking, I loved it. Then I watched the Solar Opposites Halloween special. This show is so dumb. I love it. As much as I love the show, I wasn't over the moon about this special. The first half was great. Like the whole Crypt Keeper bit was really funny, but it started to lose me after a while. Not my favorite, but it was a fun little episode. Can't wait till Christmas so I can have an excuse to watch the holiday special again. My ranking, I liked it. Then I watched Barbarian. God damn. Whew, this was a weird one. The first 2 acts of the movie are phenomenal. The visual storytelling, the building tension, the unsettling performances, and the first few times the movie decides to switch things up on you are really well done. But much like the main character in this flick, I feel like the movie opens one too many mystery boxes, and nothing ends up being as satisfying as the first couple of what the fuck moments. And the ending is fucking goofy. Like, no lie, the last 10 minutes of the movie feel like a completely different film. Not to spoil anything, but at the end I was just like, oh, this is a cartoon. I didn't know that we were following cartoon rules. The cast is wonderful though, and the dumb ending doesn't ruin the entire movie for me, but it's close. My ranking, I liked it. Then I watched Coco, the only Dia de los Muertos film I watched this month. This might be my favorite Pixar film right behind Incredibles. The animation is beautiful and the story is lovely and all the characters are so much fun. I love that the movie is named after the main character's grandmom. That is adorable. And all of the songs are great. For it to be an animated film about music, it wasn't really a musical, which I appreciated. Not every cartoon has to be a goddamn musical. If you watch this movie and you don't cry, call your mom and tell her you were born without a soul. She needs to know. My ranking, I still love it. Then I watched It 1 and 2 for the first time. The first one was pretty darn good. A lot of the best moments of the movie were spoiled for me by people who were trying to convince me to see it when it first came out, especially the first kill. Really wish that wasn't ruined for me. But it was a pretty good story that has some interesting things about generational trauma and how communities deal with tragedy. I mean, the sequel to this movie could have been It 2, Hurt People, Hurt People. Or It 2 Brute, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Kill the Clown. Either or. These are working titles. The representation is a little icky, though. The only characterization the black or queer characters seem to get is being brutalized. We get to find out all kinds of shit about the other kids, but most of the scenes with black or queer characters are just them getting harassed or straight up attacked. And in the first It, the movie completely forgets about the black kid and the Jewish kid for big chunks of the movie. The story around the Christian white kids was pretty good, though, and Skarsgård was awesome. I liked the first movie better, but I liked his performance more in the second one, if that makes any sense. Oh, and Bill Hader is hilarious. My ranking, I liked it. And for It 2, I didn't hate it. Then I rewatched Tales of the Crypt, Demon Knight. I used to watch Tales of the Crypt and Tales from the Crypt Keeper when I was a kid, but it wasn't until a friend recommended this movie to me a few years ago that I saw this strange, fun, demon hunting horror action flick. One look at the cast and I was like, wait. How did I not know about this movie? Like, where did this movie come from? It's cool how they had the very unnecessary cameo from the Crypt Keeper. Actually, it's not even a cameo. He just takes over the movie for a little bit. It adds nothing to the movie, but it reminds you that this is a Tales from the Crypt joint. So I dig it. Jada is great, and CCH Pounder is always amazing. I love Viola Davis, but CCH Pounder is my Amanda Waller. Every time I think about this flick, I think about the wasted potential, because you could have made a couple more sequels out of this idea. Hell, we can make a sequel today with Jada and... let's see. It probably has to be a white woman if Hollywood's gonna go for it. Jada and Samara Weaving. Who doesn't love Samara Weaving? I love Samara Weaving. My ranking, I liked it. Then I watched Spiral. No, not the Chris Rock movie. I'm probably never going to watch that movie. No, I'm talking about the Shudder original of the same name. I stumbled across this gem a few years ago, and I cannot stress how much you need to watch it. It's really well directed, and Jeffrey Boyer Chapman is acting his ass off. Much like Candyman and Get Out, this movie is a commentary on bigotry and American imperialism, but through the lens of an interracial gay couple while moving into a small town. Where horror films used to just try to scare you, a lot of horror flicks nowadays try to focus on why the characters are afraid and where that trauma comes from. And in Spiral, we see the manifestation of that trauma in the form of a creepy cult. Or maybe they're not a creepy cult. Watch the movie to find out. My ranking, I loved it. Then I rewatched The Thing. It's the 40-year anniversary of this version of The Thing, and it still fucks. All cards on the table. I've never seen the other two versions because they look kinda not good. Though this was a pretty gangster stunt to do in 1951. But I also haven't seen those versions because this one is so great. I remember playing the video game as a kid with my brothers, and I remember being terrified up until the point where I got stuck, and then I just got frustrated and never played it again. You guys ever played that game? Tell me how to beat it. Most of the makeup and practical effects still hold up, especially the CPR scene and the dog scene. There are shots from those moments that still make my skin crawl. Like, I've seen detailed explanations on exactly how they executed these scenes, and it still freaks me out. I'm gonna have my assistant editor, future Alex, add a clip of the Corridor Crew talking about how awesome this movie is.
Rob Bottin, he was 19 years old, I believe, when he did this whole movie. All this stuff had to be lit in a very specific way for it to look real. It was very dark, edge lit, and they had like a greasy gel layer that they threw over top of everything to give it that nice sheen. Every single shot is like masterfully composed in order to hide all the things behind the scenes.
Plus, this cast is pretty awesome. Beyond TK Carter, Kurt Russell, and the incomparable Keith David in his first movie ever, I don't really know any of these actors, but each person played their role well in this horrific, paranoia-fueled creature feature. My ranking, I loved it. Then I watched Scream 5. I love the original Scream, but I haven't watched one of those since Scream 3, so I wasn't particularly excited about this one. But when I heard that it was directed by the guys who did Ready or Not, I figured I'd give it a shot. Plus, Baby Quaid is in it. We stand a Baby Quaid vehicle. And this movie was pretty good. The meta commentary was definitely in line with the previous films while discussing the new age of social thrillers from studios like Blumhouse and A24. I enjoyed myself, but it felt very CW drama, and nothing really ends up topping the intensity of the first scene, which is admittedly pretty great. My ranking, I liked it. Then I almost watched the new Hellraiser, and then I realized I watched the original for the first time last Halloween, and I hated it. So I didn't watch that this year. Next movie. Then I watched Hocus Pocus 1 and 2. I'm a huge fan of the original Hocus Pocus. It's mostly nostalgia because it's not a great film, but the Sanderson sisters are all so funny. To this day, there are still moments that make me laugh. All their scenes together are what really make the film so rewatchable. Considering how popular these characters are and how we're in this age of reboots and sequels, it was only a matter of time before we got a sequel to this one. And it wasn't bad. In fact, it was pretty much in line with the first movie. The Sanderson sisters are great, just like the first one, and the kid actors are not very good, just like the first one. We do get some really fun cameos from actors that I love, and Dougie Jones is back as Billy the Zombie. We even get a weird flashback where we get to see Billy and the Sanderson sisters interacting as kids. But yeah, this movie was fine. It was fine. But mostly since I don't have any kids, I don't see any reason to watch this ever again. My ranking, it was fine. Then I watched Garth Marenghi's Darth Place. I just finished What We Do in the Shadows, so it felt too soon for a rewatch. But with that ruled out, I went to my second favorite Matt Berry show. It plays like a kind of retrospective documentary about a fictional Stephen King style show. Beyond the broad, silly moments and the bad acting.
Wait, I have more things to say.
Go on. Sorry for the interruption.
Don't mention it. She's saying there's something supernatural going on.
This team goes through a lot of work to make things like choppy editing, terrible writing, bad ADR, and illogical blocking look like a real 80s B-movie that's produced by an egotistical prick. I also watched these old B-movies Pieces and The Incredible Melting Man, and this show feels exactly like those movies. The only comparison to the authenticity of this style of spoof comedy is the hilarious film Black Dynamite. And Richard Ayoade is a fucking riot and my personal fashion coach.
A small bunch of objects are flying of their own accord in E-Wing. And apparently more objects are heading this way. Goodbye.
If you're looking for a good horror comedy that is absolutely not like anything else you've seen, you will dig this show. My ranking, I loved it. Then I watched Jennifer's Body. This is one of the few films that get better with age. Partly because of the perception of the film is so different now that we all know the bullshit Diablo Cody and Megan Fox went through at the time. Retrospectively, this almost serves as an autobiographical film for Fox and Cody, if not allegorical for the way women are treated in the entertainment industry in general.
I realized that in filming that scene where they sacrifice me, that for me, that was really reflective of, I felt like my relationship with the movie studios at that point, because I felt like that's what they were willing to do, to literally bleed me dry. They didn't care about my health, my well-being, mentally, emotionally, physically at all, and they were willing to sacrifice me physically as long as they got what they wanted out of it.
This is a whip-smart, campy, fun time. But considering the climate, I'm not surprised it was only a moderate success. My ranking, I loved it. Then I rewatched Scooby-Doo. I love watching Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo's awesome. Then I watched A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. This is low-key one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a vampire love story, and it is beautifully directed by Anna Lily Amarpour. I've probably seen this movie over 20 times now, and I still love it. Every actor in this movie is captivating, including Marshall Manesh, who's been in a bunch of shit. You've seen him in stuff before, but never acting this goddamn good. But Sheila Vand as the titular character is out of this world good. One day I'll make a top 10 vampire movies list as an excuse to talk about this movie more, but as of now, I'll just say my ranking, I loved it. And then I watched Halloween. I had to close it out with the titular classic, and this movie is still pretty damn good. I watched it for the first time a few years ago, and I was surprised by how much I liked it. Some older films, especially low-budget horror, don't really hold up, but the tension, the music, the camera work, it's all very well executed, especially considering this movie was made by a bunch of broke 20-year-olds. I haven't seen the new ones yet, and I was thinking about watching them for the holiday, but I decided to stick with The Devil I Know. I don't think it's the best horror movie ever made. I don't even think it's the best Jamie Lee Curtis movie. That one is clearly Freaky Friday. What? I'm not being weird. You're Being Weird. Again, not the best horror movie in the world, but I don't think it's a hot take to say that there is no better slasher film to watch for the creepiest holiday of the year. My ranking, I loved it. And that's it. That's all the movies. I did watch other movies, but like I said, I'm not going to talk about them. This video would be like 45 minutes long if I talked about every movie I watched, but I will leave a list in the description just in case you're curious or you're just looking for some horror ideas, just looking to watch some horror flicks. But what are some of your favorite horror flicks? What did you watch for Halloween? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, until next time, stay safe, my little Sanderson sisters, and may the force be with you.